When I first went by train from Milan to Turin, I was amazed to see rice fields like I'd seen in the Yangtze Valley in China. I probably shouldn't have been so surprised, as risotto and arancini rice balls are staples of Italian cuisine, but I've never really considered where that rice came from. This video is about the story of rice production in Italy, and hopefully you'll agree it's more interesting than perhaps it sounds. As always, and paradoxically, Italy is both united by and divided by food. Although rice is typically associated with the Po Valley of northern Italy, it also features in Sicilian cooking and may well have originated in the far south of Italy, not territories normally associated with the wet conditions needed for rice. The ancient Romans certainly knew about rice, but it appears in books about medicine rather than food. It is possible that rice production was brought to Sicily by the Arabs around the year 1000, or perhaps the Spanish introduced it to Naples in the 14th century, or perhaps merchants introduced it to the north. Venetian explorer Marco Polo is credited with bringing many things to Italy from China, so why not also rice? I did come across a thesis funded by the Chinese Ministry of Science and Technology and the Italian Environment Ministry, which suggested a particularly close genetic relationship between traditional Italian and Chinese varieties of rice and a more direct transmission from China to Italy. Whatever its origins, Italy is the biggest producer of rice in Europe. This is partly due to the development of new varieties of rice in the 1920s, which are better suited to local growing conditions. One of these varieties was named Balilla, which reveals its origins, as the Balilla was a fascist youth organisation which many Italians of a certain generation, including my grandfather, were required to join as children. Mussolini had a long-standing desire to reduce Italian appetites for pasta, which relied on imported wheat and some believed made Italians weak and lazy. The Futurists, who were an inspiration for Mussolini, famously produced the Futurist cookbook, with more politically appropriate food for modern Italians. Ultimately, however, Mussolini was unsuccessful in weaning Italians away from pasta, and Italian self-sufficiency in food proved to be another of his illusions. Rice production had originally been unpopular in northern Italy, as the wet conditions were associated with malaria, but it was very profitable in the fertile, swampy areas around the River Po, and landowners, including one of Italy's great unification leaders, Count Camillo Cavour, encouraged its production by building the canals to irrigate the rice fields with the meltwater from the Alps, which flowed to the sea in the late spring and summer each year. For the workers, many of whom were women, rice cultivation was hard, back-breaking work, with water up to their knees in malarial conditions and leeches a constant problem. Not for nothing was the Oscar-nominated neo-realist film of the 1940s called Riso Amaro, or Bitter Rice. It's one of those names which loses something in translation, as Riso Amaro also means bitter laugh. As for food and cooking, risotto Milanese with butter and saffron is one of the great dishes of Milan's cuisine, and may have Spanish or Arab origins. But my favourite use of rice in Italian food is for arancini, fried rice balls, which is a Sicilian speciality, although I remember my grandmother in Umbria making them regularly. They are also one of the favourite foods of Inspector Montalbano. Montalbano may largely have avoided the mafia in those books, but he couldn't miss arancini. Finally, the other interesting use of rice in Italy, which I don't think we do in the UK, is to throw rice at weddings as confetti. Confetti is another false friend, as confetti are sugary almond sweets which are given out at weddings. And if you see the film Bitter Rice, you'll see rice being sprinkled on the body as a funeral too. Anyway, I hope you found this rice-filled video interesting and will continue to enjoy your rice puddings and not think too hard about the history and politics of rice production. In the meantime, please do consider subscribing, and I'll be doing more videos along similar lines shortly.